and I put in the motion, and this is important for the court to be aware, I was in the military. I spent time overseas. I actually was discharged from the military for a hardship discharge to actually come home and take care of Lisa. And I believe a lot of these issues that are being raised in this court are related to the fact of those issues, and I would like to bring that into scope for the court so they're fully aware and understanding of what impact her health is having on, I believe, the boys' decision makings that are happening. Also, the boys'
so you're
health.
saying it's part and parcel of your argument.
Correct, Your Honor.
Attorney Prito.
Judge, again, it's completely irrelevant. This has been going on for years and years. It's not relevant.
I understand that, but as I understand it, looking at your client's petition change court order, she pled that she wants to address decision making, and she also wants to address a parenting schedule.
Yes, Judge.
I would say that her ability to follow through and do that is relevant. So I'm going to allow it. However, to the extent, Mr. Fedore, that you're going to be talking about specific sensitive, like quoting from doctor's records or something like that, you need to notify us, and it might very well be that I'll ask Mr. Fogg to turn it off during that particular time.
No problem, Your Honor. And I have the documents to support that, and at those times,
do you have a copy of all of those that you intend to present?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. So, but it's not your case to present at this particular time. It's actually Ms. Tagalakis. She bears the burden of proof on the petition.
Thank you, Judge. I'd also add that the court made clear the amount of time that we were going to have.
Yes, we have 2 hours. We also, I want to hear from the GAL. I'm not sure if you would prefer to hear from the GAL first, but I want to allocate to each party a certain amount of time. I was thinking about having the GAL testify, subject to cross-examination, further questioning, and then look at what we have for a balance of time and divide it by 2.
That's fine. That's fine.
Does that work?
We'd like to get this, we want to resolve this today, Judge.
I might add, just question, Mr. Fedore, do you have a proposed parenting plan?
I will submit that post-trial. Unfortunately, I
That
have
might
a lot of
help us save
exhibits
a lot of time.
that I was typing and printing, and I ran out of
So you don't have a proposal for today?
I will submit that as soon as we leave this court today, and I'll make sure Attorney Frito in the court has that.
And the GAL?
Yes, correct.
All right, so I guess, as Ms. Welch was saying, it was just, it will potentially impact what she was going to say in her recommendations, but I guess you'll have to testify as to your preferences. If you could please approach me this stand, and if you want to bring notes or report, that's fine.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You swear from the information you provide to the court today is true to the best of your knowledge? I do. Thank you. Please have a seat, and once you get comfortable, you can state your name for the record.
Andrew Welch.
You may seat. Thank you. All right. I'll just let you go narratively if you'd like to do that, and then open it up for questions.
That's fine, Judge.
That might be more time efficient. Thank you.
Do you want me to start then?
Yes, please.
This case has been going on for a very long time. Excuse my voice, I'm sorry about that. I wish we did have a proposed parenting plan, because that might shorten today's agenda quite substantially, and then maybe we would only be discussing decision making. I'm not sure. I know for the past few months, I can't say exactly, they have been following some sort of parenting routine. I think it's been going well. I'm not sure where Mr. Fedore, I know he's working a lot of hours, so I don't know his ability to take the kids any more than what he's been doing now.
Did you have an opportunity to complete your investigation? I know that Mr. Fedore wanted to be sure to be able to weigh into that equation.
Right after our last court hearing, I sent Mr. Fedore a questionnaire, and I never got a reply from that.
Okay, so you send him the customary questionnaire that you would normally send out.
Yes, you're
I'm assuming you did that with respect to Ms. Tagalakis and received a response.
right. Yes.
Okay. And am I to understand that that means you don't know what other references he wanted you to talk to?
I have no knowledge on Mr. Fedore.
And so, just to clarify for myself, you've not even had an opportunity to have any particular interviewing time with Mr. Fedore?
I did not, no. After I did not get a response on the questionnaire, I assumed he was not interested in speaking with me.
And shall I, by extension, and I guess, understand that therefore you did not have an opportunity to view his living environment, how he interacts with the children, and so forth?
What was the question?
I'm sorry, I tend to be verbose and compound.
That's okay.
Because you didn't have an interview with him or any further follow-up, does that mean you didn't get to go and see where he lives, see how he interacts with the children in his care?
I did not go. I am basing my report on the actions of the two parties that I've observed from the last year and how they are role modeling to their children.
Actions within the context of this case is what you're saying.
Correct.
And based upon that, can you explain to the court concerns that you had relative to each parent and how that weighs on your recommendations?
Well, I would find Mr. Fedore argumentative. I would find him anti-establishment. I would find him disregarding court orders, and believing that he's not disregarding them. I think that they've been parenting and the kids have been visiting with Mr. Fedore. They seem happy and content. They're doing very well in school this year. Mr. Fedore is banned from the school. There's a host of argumentative things that, in my mind, is not being a good role model to kids. DCYF never did finish their investigation. The reason being they couldn't get in touch with Mr. Fedore. Why he wouldn't respond if he felt he had nothing to hide. I don't understand that either.
Okay, so you're saying that they closed their investigation without any input or further investigation with Mr. Fedore?
There was no way to get in touch with him. They tried several times. I want to say that if Mr. Fedore spent as much time on this case as he did just trying to co-parent and work together and parent these children, it would have been so much more of a positive outcome than putting all his strengths into all this paperwork and all this fight. It's been such a waste of time and so sad.
I do know at the last time we were here that Ms. Tagalakis was anticipating being able to move into her family home. Did you have a chance to follow up and see if that has come through?
I don't believe she's moved yet, but I know it's in the works.
Okay.
My concern is not their physical housing, my concern is how they parent.
How they parent?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me specifically what you see the strengths and the weaknesses as to each party.
Well, I could say the strengths of Mr. Fedore is certainly his love for his children, his commitment to his children. I won't doubt that for a second. I do think he's going about it the wrong way. I think the fight is a negative impact, and having those children around people who they shouldn't have been around, more concerningly the Mike Gill issue. I know that's over now, but exposing them to that is not age appropriate. or being a good role model. I don't doubt his concern for his children. Lisa, from the start, steadfast, concerned, very appropriate, keeping up with their school, making sure they're happy, and also finding time for Mr. Fedore to see his children. I've never heard anything more than doing what's right for the kids, what's best. I never heard her, excuse me, saying that she was trying to keep the children away from him. She always seemed to be accommodating, switching schedules. I know he's worked this past couple months, a lot of hours. I know she scheduled things so he could see the children.
So, going forward, what are your recommendations, understanding that Ms. Tagalakis wanted, or was advocating, I believe, for sole decision-making as to certain issues, as well as a specific parenting plan, and what, I
And
guess.
here's the problem on sole decision-making, or not sole decision-making. When you have a family like this, that has such contempt, and such hatred, and such venom, there's no way they're ever gonna agree on anything. All right? Example, the school has suggested, I believe it was Ben, I'd have to look at my notes, get tested for ADHD, or ADD, was it Ben? Lisa agreed, went along with what the school counselors had said. Mr. Fedore adamantly opposed. So now the child gets absolutely nothing because you have two parents that disagree and the school won't make a decision. One example, how are we going to have anyone make a decision for these children if they can't agree? One person has to be the decision maker in this sort of case.
What, based upon what you've seen, for the ability you've been able to conduct your investigation, what do you believe would be in the children's best interest in terms of allocation of residential responsibility? Just in terms of main, I know presently up to this point, Ms. Tagalakis has more or less acted in a primary custodial residential responsibility role.
And I believe that is because Mr. Fedore has been working so many hours.
Okay. What do you believe is in the children's best interest going forward if it wasn't perhaps dictated by work schedule?
I think that children should have access to both parents. But I have seen that children who, just in general, who constantly go back and forth, do much harder at school. Some sort of set schedule where they can maybe do, weekends at one parent, maybe one night dinner at the other parent, that sort of thing, but not back and forth. It's too difficult for them.
It doesn't allow for stability is what you're saying?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add before I allow questions from Attorney Credo, Mr. Fedore? Attorney Credo.
Yes, briefly. So if you just briefly state to the court your qualifications as GAL. How many cases have you done? How long have you been doing this? What types of cases do you handle? Just briefly so the court.
I started my GAL work with CASA of New Hampshire. I did a 40-hour training with them. That was back, I believe, in 2002. I worked with them approximately 3 years. After that, I took the New Hampshire State Certification Program at Concord, New Hampshire, and I've been a GAL with the state for mostly parenting cases since about 2015.
Approximately how many cases do you think you've done at GAL? Hundreds, thousands?
No, I wouldn't say 100. I would say probably 60 to 70.
How would you categorize those types of cases? Some, as you know, some family cases are easier, some are more difficult. Do you have a sort of specialty or a niche? Or
My specialty has really been to get parents to co-parent. I've been very successful in the past to get two argumentative parents to sit down, let it go, and figure it out and how to do it, because that's how it works best.
So you have experience dealing with
Yes, I do.
couples that don't get along and let's say difficult cases. Is
Yes,
that fair to say?
yes.
Now, did you, as part of your process, did you not want to interview Mr. Fedore? Did you
Of
not?
course I wanted to interview him. But I
Um,
expected a questionnaire so I could do some preliminary work before that.
and so in your opinion, he refused to cooperate?
Absolutely. Hasn't followed the court orders in a few of the matters.
I think at the last hearing, you were here when he said that he was going to cooperate and that you were going to send him a questionnaire and he was going to respond, and we got a continuance, I think, for that fact. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So do you know why he never followed up with that?
He made mention of it earlier today. I'm not exactly sure of his words.
Okay. Also, the court had ordered, is generally in every case, fees to be paid and fees to be split. Did you receive any fees from my client?
Yeah, she paid me.
Okay. Did you receive any fees from?
No, he did not.
Hasn't paid any of the court ordered fees? You mentioned that he was banned from school. Did you have any part or role in getting him banned from school?
No.
Do you know why he's banned from school?
He showed up at the school one day, loud, boisterous cursing, making a scene, and the school called the police.
You mentioned that there was a DCYF investigation.
Yes.
Did you institute the DCYF investigation or call about it? Did you read the cause of the DCYF investigation?
Did I read the cause?
I'm sorry, were you the cause of it? In other words,
No,
did you
I
file a report
No,
about
I
the
did
DCYF?
not.
It had nothing to do with DCYF. As a result, you learned that, again, that there's sensitive information, but I need to ask it, so I'm going to ask that. Again, the court's going to order anything said about the children, the history.
Mr. Fogg, do you prefer to stop it or to edit?
I can edit it, that's fine. I can make a mark right now.
Because I know that Attorney Prito would like to touch on a more sensitive topic.
Okay.
Okay?
I'd ask the recording to be turned off, Judge.
I'm sorry?
I'd ask the recording to be turned off.
Okay. If you could please turn it off, sir.
Will do. I'll just...
Yes. Lisa had filed an ex parte motion back in May. Looks like court date 19th, 2017. And in the summary of that, she says, spoke to our GAL under a Welsh and she is in agreement with this motion. Is that correct?
Can you explain what we're talking about?
Yeah, this is the ex parte motion that Lisa had filed because I was living with Mike Gill. Felt there was concerns with that, and you
Yes,
signed.
I was in agreement with that.
You were in agreement with that. Okay. Now, after that was denied, that ex parte, I went to the Manchester police station, spoke with the Manchester police.
This is not your opportunity to testify. This is only your opportunity to ask
Oh,
questions. of the
okay.
GAL.
I was going to ask you a question. That was a little long-winded. Sorry about that. When I spoke to them, they called you. Is that correct?
The Manchester Police Department?
Correct.
Can you refer to what we're talking about?
Yes, about picking up the children. I wanted to pick up the children because Lisa had not provided me the opportunity to pick up the children. In fact, they had been picked up from school, so I had the police call you. Do you remember that?
Do you have a date?
It's on the audio recording. I believe it was May 22nd, Your Honor.
Is that
I don't recall
Please
please
recall
calling
me.
me.
I'd like to submit this CD of the police recording at that time, and on it you will
What
hear.
is the CD? Is it a call service? What is it? dispatch log?
It's a dispatcher speaking to Lisa and GAL under a Welsh.
Okay, and so for what purpose are you offering it?
I'm offering it. She says she doesn't recall. This is a record. If we were to play this, would this have you remember this call?
Well, certainly possible.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, what's the point you're trying to make, sir? She can't recall right now off the top of her head. I'm sure if she listens to that, yes, she will. But what's the substantive point?
Did you tell the Manchester police that you always tell your clients to do what's in the best interest of the children's safety, correct? Is that correct?
Sounds like something I would say.
Okay. I'd like to submit this CD in as evidence.
Not a bad statement when you're a guardian.
I object to that footage reports and saying she agreed, so.
That sounds like something she would say. She just doesn't remember exactly the date. How is that important?
I have a follow-up question in that regard.
All right.
In doing so, she violated the court order, is that correct?
I think that's argumentative.
That's not argumentative.
Yes, it is. You're accusing her of violating the court order. What?
It's in the January 9th hearing, the record from that, stating that Lisa had violated the parenting plan.
So, which, specifically January
9th, the hearing that was conducted.
January 9 or June 9 of 2017?
June 9th, yes, I'm sorry.
So you mean the one in front of Judge Foley?
That's correct.
Okay. So, yes, Judge Foley found that Ms. Tagalakis unilaterally acted as if the ex parte request had been granted, and doing so deprived herself of the standing to seek that relief. I mean, basically, okay, so I see what Judge Foley's findings are.
Mhm.
So what's your point in bringing that up, saying that she was found in contempt in Judge Foley's June 9 order?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's your point?
Yeah,
Okay, so how does that relate to the GAL?
well, she advised Lisa to do what's in the best interest of the children, but violated the parenting plan in doing so. And clearly, she admitted that she was in agreement with the ex parte motion. She had said so. She's clearly, at this point, taking Lisa's side of the argument, irregardless of facts or findings of the court.
Well, actually, the act had already occurred because the ex parte, you're talking about a judge's finding after they've had an opportunity to hear everything. You understand the disadvantage with an ex parte is you only have a certain amount of information. And so what you're saying is the finding of contempt made by Judge Foley on June 9th is very different than what was occurring and what information was known or made available on May 25.
I'm not saying it's different. I'm saying it's exactly. She recommended Lisa to do this action, which gave Lisa a contempt order. She's part and parcel of the ex parte,
Okay.
Therefore she is in
I
agreement.
understand your argument, sir, but I also have to tell you that there's certain information the GAL is entitled to be concerned and express concern, obviously vested with, as the third neutral party.
You're asking me to say this to a parent, don't go against your court order if something is gonna damage or hurt the children. Children come first, okay? Children come first.
The finding, there was no issues that were found to be of ex parte matter, correct?
That's a judge making a ruling from a bench and not being there, okay? They can only do so much.
I get your point, Mr. Fedore. Are we done with this line of questioning?
Okay. Well, she agreed that she was
You've
in.
made your point.
Okay.
You've made your point.
Let's go back. Were you aware that I was in communication with the school when the ex parte, after the ex parte was filed, and at the time that Lisa withheld the children? Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that you were in communication with the school.
Yes.
The
school didn't contact you, you didn't contact Lisa, Lisa didn't contact the school. There was no communication, you had no way to know that I was in contact with the school?
Unless you would have brought
Why
that
didn't
to
you
her
tell me
attention.
you were in contact with the school?
I just asked a simple question if you knew,
Judge,
that's all.
This is not how you have your first interview with the GAL, withhold information until you get to a final hearing, and then say, did you find out about this? He had every opportunity to turn this over, the court ordered him to turn this over, gave him an opportunity to turn it over, he's never done it, and now this is not how you.
And that goes to the weight of the evidence.
Thank you, Judge. Again, I'd object to this line of questioning,
Okay.
that continue to ask the information that he was
I
in
don't
his
think there's anything more that I can see unless you're gonna still go down this road as to what she didn't discover because you were not forthcoming. What else, what other questions do you have with GAL so we can move on with the rest of the hearings? I told you, sir, I have a 3 o'clock that I cannot ride over onto.
I already submitted this at the last hearing, this is the GAL, email where she states, I'm here to do my job with your input or not, it will get done. If your behavior is such, then I'm not sure what information or
Okay,
wants
well,
will be heard.
yes, and I thought we got beyond that. I thought we got beyond that with the last order, and she sent you the questionnaire, and there wasn't any more advancement on that, so I'm not gonna spend more time looking in your rearview mirror. Anything further? I'd like to have balance of what is left of this hearing for the two of you to be able to split, which is what we had discussed.
One more question, then I'll do it, Your Honor.
Judge, I'd also,
Just let him ask the one more question, Attorney Prito, and then we'll go there. Yes, Mr. Fedore?
Were you aware that there was a restraining order against Lisa's boyfriend not to be at child custody exchanges?
Yes.
Okay, no more questions.
All right. Okay, you sit down. Attorney Prito, you wanted to be heard?
I was going to say, Judge, the client reports that individuals in the galley are
making gestures at me while we're
inappropriate
sitting there
gestures
when
and,
I turned my head. Inappropriate.
I guess you'd ask that the court you admonish them.
If I catch that, you're gonna be out of here. That's one thing I can do is control the decorum of this courtroom, and I will not have it. I'm not saying it's happening. Please, any disagreement, keep it to yourself. All right? Thank you. All right, you may sit down. Thank you. Attorney Prito, okay, now we have about 50 minutes, so 25 and 25.
Great. Lisa?
That's fine, if she wants to stay
Okay,
there,
great.
I'm just as happy.
That'd be great.
Just, that will expedite things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Judge.
Just
Please,
keep your
please.
voice up so I can hear him a little hard of hearing. Okay,
Please.
thank you.
You state your name.
Lisa Tagalakis.
Lisa, just want to go over a couple questions with you. Who lives at your residence?
Myself, my two sons, Benjamin and Paul, and my boyfriend some of the time, like roughly half the week.
Who are your children?
Benjamin and Paul Fedore,
And what are the date of birth?
8/30/08,
How old are
9.
they? They are in your custody and care, correct?
They are.
Could you just explain a little bit about their routine?
Their routine during the week,
Where do they go to
they
school?
go to Smith Road School, they're in the 4th grade. They sometimes attend after school programs. They go to school. I work until 5:30, but at 5, they are usually either after school or picked up by one of my friends, 2 people that help pick them up. They go home, do their homework. When I get home, we have dinner and homework, showers, and that's pretty much the whole during the week, except for the day they go with Mr. Fedore.
What has been Mr. Fedore's routine?
When I proposed the parenting plan, the last hearing, I proposed every other Saturday, 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month, every Tuesday, and every Friday. And since then,
So every other Saturday, every Tuesday,
Second.
every Friday.
every Tuesday from 3 to 7, every Friday from 3 to 9, where he would pick them up from school. And then Saturday, the 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month, from, I believe it was was 10 to 8 p.m., 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
Since that court hearing, I believe he's taken them twice on a Saturday. And he has basically emailed me every week saying, these are my days off next week. And I have accommodated his work schedule and allowed him to have his parenting time. When he has asked me for a day where it's not a day where we had already made plans, because he doesn't give me my, schedule, I still give him at least 2 out of 3 days to make sure that they have parenting time.
When they deviate from this plan, is that because of your request or his request?
Always his request.
And you try to accommodate him if he
I've
asks for
been accommodating his work schedule or non-work schedule for 5 years.
Over the last couple months, where has Mr. Fedore been residing? Has he told you that?
Not until I got the court paperwork did I know his address. The boys also told me that they didn't know. They only knew that it was near the beach in Hampton. They said they didn't know the address.
Prior to that, was he staying,
He was in a hotel, and he was also, he called me back in October. He was in a shelter after he was evicted from my Phil's house. And after that, the boys did not stay overnight after that. They didn't have overnights.
when you asked him, did you ask him where he was living?
I asked him several times.
And he would refuse to answer?
I still do not know where Mr. Fedore works.
Well, let me ask about
Where he lives.
where he's living. So
Now I know his
I understand that, but prior to that, he would refuse to give you that information, right?
Correct,
Even where he was sleeping, where the boys were staying?
correct.
And about his employment, would he tell you where he's working?
In the past, there have been times where I've received emails. As of right now, I have no idea in the last 6 months where he's been working.
And that's because he won't communicate that to you?
Correct.
How do you try to communicate with him?
The only way that Mr. Fedore will communicate is via email, which in an emergency situation is really a problem. I do not have his cell phone number, so I email him when it has. He and I communicate is very little. It's usually about pickup and drop off, or if something happens with one of the children that we need to communicate. It's very limited.
I want to ask you about the children and their medical issues. I asked hold on a second.
Yep.
Before we do that, if the court would mind asking the parties to leave. I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, and just to give me not a whole lot for approval, just tell me with line of questioning where you're gonna go.
I just want to get into the children's medical history and the DCY investigation.
Please, thank you.
I object, Your Honor. We've already hashed that over. She's had an
This is
opportunity.
a different witness and this is her presentation.
Of the child support, if I got behind it, made sure to catch it up. In fact, like I had mentioned, I'm actually overpaid in the child support as of my knowledge at this point, because I made a like $830 payment. I really owed like $700. Irregardless, I'm a good father. I have a stable place. There's absolutely no finding of fact that I'm not a good father or a loving father. There's no reason I shouldn't have overnights. I have 2 separate bedrooms for the children. They have a nice living space. They enjoy that space. In fact, they said to me, "This is the best space we've ever had, Dad." It's because of hard work, dedication that I've put into making sure that they've had everything they need, and I'll continue to do that. I have always done that. And if you look through the record, I've always had work. I've had to change jobs sometimes, but I find work immediately. Within 1 day of losing my job the last time, I had a job the next day. Very few people are able to do that. I have a lot of skills, a lot of abilities. I have a lot of knowledge. I was trained and worked as a massage therapist. I understand how the body works. I also had a background in understanding and got a certificate for personal training. I take health issues very seriously, and I'm very concerned about the boys' health and safety and welfare. I put myself through all those training, not only for my own benefit, but for the children's benefit. I continue to do that. I've never done anything contrary to that. And I believe, and I'll put forward after this court, and I'll make sure they get my proposed parenting plan, but I can just summarize what I'm looking for at this point in time. I'm looking to have my decision-making restored, which should have, in my opinion, should have never been taken away. There's no decision that they've proven that I didn't have the best interest in my kids. I looked for additional help, math help for my son Ben, because of some of the issues that were going on. I continue to search for.
How did you seek for math help?
Yep, that's a good question. I'll be more than happy to answer that. I had come across, I researched different things, looking for math help for Ben, because that is one area that he's, slightly behind on. His reading level is on grade level, so he's doing exceptionally well there. His spelling's not as well, but he's pretty well tracking there. But
Do you have the resources available through the school?
I had spoken to the school about them. They have a paraprofessional that works with him. Additionally, they are aware that I was seeking additional help, math help for Ben, and I searched out and I found this mathnasium of North Manchester. They said to come on in. We'll take a look at what we can do for him, see what his strengths and weaknesses are. We believe it to be a short time frame. I explained the situation, what he was going through, where his grade level was, and I sent that over to Lisa to review.
Okay, so when did you discover that information about that resource?
That was back in January of this year.
Okay, so have you acted on that?
I sent over the information to Lisa. She did not apparently agree to take him over to review with Mathnasium. In fact,
Did you approach the issue?
I did. In fact, her reasoning for not taking him was the cost was high, which that's reasonable. If the cost is high, it's a potential issue. But the other issue that she raises, who's going to take him? Well, she just said that she has individuals to pick him up. They could easily drop. It's only a few hours
Well, is
a
that
week.
something you could help with, sir?
Yeah.
So something you could actually pay for and go and pick up and shuttle?
I would make arrangements to make that happen if it were necessary, absolutely. And that's what I wanted to do. And that was what I tried to explain to Lisa, but unfortunately we didn't get very far with that conversation.
So you're saying, I just want to make sure I understand you correctly, you're saying you offered to be able to help the drop-off with the pickup and the cost for the extra help?
Well, I didn't specifically mention that. I did say that this is a program I think that would be good for Ben, and they were offering, and I gave her the email thread of their time frame, what they were looking to do, and I simply asked that she go over there and at least review with them the potential, and that never happened. And I will say,
did you offer to go with her? Did you offer to go with her? You did the research. Did
Right.
you offer to go with her?
Well, I didn't candidly offer, but I believe, of course I would. I mean, it's my son. I would be more than happy.
The answer to the question is no, you did not.
No.
Okay.
So that's all I'm trying to do is try to get the children up to level. If they're falling behind, that they get on level. I'm very concerned because they live 2 miles from the school, yet they've been tardy over 35 times over this past year.
Do you have the attendance record?
Yeah, if I can find that. I believe it's in the school records I have.
Even if you have the most recent progress report.
Right. I know I had submitted that in my motion to the court, which
Whatever you submitted, which wasn't to have been submitted, got returned to you. So you
I
have it.
understand. I'm just trying to. I believe I have it here, but Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that. I can provide that. I just don't seem to have it at this juncture.
Well, if you want the court to accept that as evidence, I'll need it for the course of this hearing. You can't keep filing things after the fact. Is there a dispute about the school attendance?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, keep searching.
Yeah.
Bless you. Where's that o'clock?
Can I submit a picture of the boys so you know who we're talking about?
Sure.
I'd like to see
Anybody
everybody
else?
out to make sure that the right kids.
Yep, those are my boys. Good boys. Well, unfortunately,
Okay, so while you're searching, is there anything else you wanted to say, or can I hear from Attorney Prito and I give you an opportunity?
just wrap it up real quickly, and then Attorney Prito can have his rebuttal. Like I said, I'm a good father. I care about my kids. I want to do what's best interest. I'm always searching and looking for different avenues to increase their life, to increase their ability to understand, learn, grow. Like I said, I've put myself through many different training programs, massage therapy, personal trainer, nutrition. I'm well aware of all these factors, and that's where my concern about the boys' health and safety and concern, and that's why I've done what I've done. That's why I sought out the additional help of Dr. Hand, the math, additional help, the eye tracking issues, the iron supplementation. Those are all because I understand and have training and background in that, and it's because I searched out and looked for those things for my children, and I worked with Lisa on those issues.
So let me just clarify, so have you attended the doctor's appointments with her so you can ask those questions?
I've attended, yes, both in person with her, and also the doctor's appointments she canceled were actually on my parenting time, and like I said, she was aware of those in advance. Those were on my parenting
But
time.
you heard about the last doctor's appointment, the one that just happened, where
Right.
the doctor was actually pleased with Paul's
Well-
progress. Were you at that appointment?
No, I was not. Look, the CDC report on BMI, which is the body mass index, which takes the height and weight proportional, would actually list Paul at this point in time as obese, which is very concerning. I understand kids grow at different rates, but again, if you look at the chart, the extreme nature of that weight gain and no height gain is very concerning. So
Well,
that
he had a height gain and no weight gain.
a slight height gain over the last few months, which
2
children
inches
grow.
over the last few months, I would consider.
Actually, that's since December, so we're about 6 months. Thereabouts. So about a half year, 2 inches, 4 inches a year. I don't know. I'm not a doctor in that regard, but I definitely CDC reports definitely list him as obese. Very concerning. And I know the food that he eats with me, organic foods, good healthy nutrition, proteins. Again, I have knowledge and background in these areas and very concerned. I take care of my own health. I was in the military, so I understand training. So these are the concerns that I have. I mean, they're well-founded concerns. Doesn't mean that the progress can't be made, but there are well-founded concerns. These aren't outside of the scope of having concern, and we don't have the doctor's records that say, well, she's happy with that.
But I guess the point made by the GAL was this. It's not so much that those are not valid concerns. Everybody has valid concerns. The ability to cooperate and resolve those concerns, I think, is the bigger issue. And that's something the court has to decide.
And you know, in regards to that, if the doctor didn't have any concerns, she rescheduled him in a short period of time to do a follow-up. So obviously there must be some
I'm
valid
not going to
concern.
make such assumptions.
Well, she,
Unless you know and you weren't there, so I'm not entirely certain you would be able to opine.
the doctor's records show that she had the follow-up. So
Because
in that
they-
regard, like I said, I'm a good father. I take good care of my kids when they're in my care. I work the best with Lisa that I can. You know, things happen. You're going to have disagreements, but you're going to have to work together. I'm willing to work together. She's shown no inclination in many cases to work together. Won't even take them to see the math tutor,
But she's
canceling
accommodated
doctor's
your work.
appointments.
Let me just ask you this though, you say with one breath that she hasn't accommodated or any inkling to cooperate. What I
And-
heard was that you have pretty much the start of each week says this is when I'm available this week, these are my days off.
I give 7 days notice of my schedule. That's all I
Okay,
receive.
so I guess, so you're confirming that because
If-
you only have,
Let me just say
I
this.
certainly
If-
don't wanna say anything in a complete sentence, Mr.
If I had my time overnight, it could be a different schedule. Because I have a shorter time frame to work with, we've had to adjust the schedule differently than it would have been. I would have different accommodations if I had overnights. So that's what the schedule we're left with. And that's good. In my opinion, that schedule should have never taken place because there was nothing there that showed that there was any issues with overnights. When I had a
Okay,
place,
but that wasn't developed through the course of the GAL investigation, and we also don't even have a proposed parenting plan for you, so we're thinking in hypotheticals.
no, it's very real. I will submit that, and you will receive that, and we can go from there. Again, I just put it to the court. I'm a good father, love my
I-
kids,
I
show all
accept
the
that.
deference to
I
that.
accept your testimony.
All right.
All right, thank you. Attorney Fedore.
Your Honor, the point of these hearings is to both sides get the information, present it to the court in an orderly manner and in a respectful manner. Mr. Fedore wants to basically do trial by ambush. He wants to hijack the process. He doesn't want to cooperate with the GAL. He doesn't want to cooperate with the court. You know, he tells when he's here, he does sort of a completely different story because when he was here and the court asked him, will you cooperate? Yes, I'll cooperate. Will you do this? Yes, I will. Will you do what you are? Yes, I can. But then he doesn't do it. He does not do it. Doesn't follow up. You know, he makes these just wild allegations that are completely untrue. He has not cooperated. And I have never been in a hearing that's about to close in about 12 minutes, a final hearing that we've been going on for a year, and he's never, 2 years, and he's never, I've been involved last year, he's never submitted a parenting plan. So here we are, 10 minutes before this hearing, I don't even know what his plan is. The plan that he even had, he doesn't comply with. Lisa said he could not, she will accommodate him, but he doesn't even comply with the plan that is in place now. So, I don't know what his parenting plan is. We don't know where he's working. We haven't been able to go out and do inspection on the house. I don't want to go through all his allegations, but that's not how you don't hijack the process. You have to turn over that information. You don't get to present it for the very first time in court because you don't want to cooperate with the GAL. He has not paid for the GAL's fees. He's filed these frivolous motions that we've had to respond to, that my clients had to pay for. We're asking the court to order him to pay the GAL, to pay the attorney's fees, and most importantly, Your Honor, if he does want to get, let's get an independent evaluator. We're asking him to get a psychological evaluation. That's been asked for from the very beginning. He has refused, he just ignores it, and then it just slips through the cracks, and he never does it, never gets done. Just like he said he was going to comply with the GAL. He sat there and said, I'm willing to, I will do whatever I have to do, and he doesn't do it. He hasn't done it. And he seems to want to say, well, I don't know what to do, I'm pro se, yet he does all this extensive research about court rules and cases. So when it behooves him, he seems to know the rules and regulations, but when it doesn't behoove him, he won't cooperate with the court, he won't cooperate with my client, he won't cooperate with the GAL, he knows the rules and he hasn't done them. I'm giving you my proposed final order, which I've given to him at the last one. I'm submitting it again. Nothing has changed. There's no surprises here. We're asking the court to just make the temporary orders, I guess, final. I think I've already submitted the final, the last hearing. If I didn't, I haven't.
It may very well be, I think you may have, we're nearing on starting at volume 3.
Yes. If I may, Judge,
Yes, I do have
I've given another copy.
Oh, thank you. All right, and Mr. Fedore, I would just ask that anything that you submit to the court as a proposed final parenting plan, that you make sure you send a copy not only to Attorney Frito, but also to the GA.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And just to clarify, Attorney Frito, I heard you say you'd asked for attorney's fees specifically, on what is that based? I guess you don't have a contempt issue before the court. What is the request for attorney's fees based?
The last few motions that we've had to deal with, they're in complete violation of the court rules. And he knew that, and we had to respond to that, and then he files motions, reconsideration.
So you're saying just with respect to the more recent?
Just to the respect of the more recent one that was just complete frivolous.
Okay, so it's not as much a contempt issue as it is under the court rules if it's frivolous.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, those weren't frivolous. They were very well concerns that I had and wanted to submit to the court. Look, I am a pro se. I don't know all the rules. I have submitted attachments to this court. If you look through the record, I have done that. There's no issue with those in the past. If you want to dig up Rule 1, whatever, I don't know it. I'm not an attorney. I just do the best that I can. So that should definitely not be true. They weren't frivolous. They were in the best interest of the children, in the best interest of providing the court with clarity and concern with the ongoing issues. This is simple for me. I'm a good father. I take good care of my kids. I provide for them. I have a great space for them, the best place that they've ever had. You have those pictures, photos of that. There's no issues of mental health with me. He likes to phrase it that, there's some sort of order that I have to go under evaluation. That's not true. That has never been true, and that will never be true. There's nothing mentally wrong with somebody that goes to work, loves their kids, provides for their kids, shows them love, and tries to work in the best interests of the children. And that's my final statement, and that's where we're at in this court. I submitted the evidence, some of the evidence that I believe is necessary. Some of the evidence I believe was necessary was not taken up by this court, and I believe that in some cases would open this up to an appeal because that evidence was submitted but wasn't taken in by the court.
Whatever order I issue, sir, if you want to appeal it, you know exactly how to do it.
I don't know about exactly, but I'll do the best that I can.
Seems to me you're good at researching, so I think you have the ability to do that. You filed motions to reconsider before, so that's entirely up to you. I'm not forecasting anything, though. Okay?
All right. Again, that's my case. I'm a good parent. Always provided. Have a good
I think
day.
that's the 7th time, but okay.
It's
I think
important.
you've beaten the point in, okay?
That's his opinion, Judge, and he
I-
said it over and over again.
I recognize-
Doesn't make it true.
I recognize that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge.
Please rise.
Could you keep
Give him a chance to leave, please.